of our May 12th meeting, Mr. Hackney.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we'll have our public comments section. Do we have any speakers? Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, we have a walk-in item. And Jim, if you could join me at the honoring Jim Fleckner for his service here at the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority and beyond. And I'll read it. Whereas the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority is a body politic organized in July 2007 by the City of Wilmington and New Hanover County to own and operate the water and sewer utilities for the county and city. And whereas James R. Fleckner joined CFPUA in 2008 as engineering manager and was one of the original employees transferring from the City of Wilmington. And whereas Mr. Fleckner became CFPUA's Chief Operating Officer in November 2011, where he oversaw water and sewer treatment operations, personnel, and budgeting in a vital CFPUA department. And whereas Mr. Fleckner served as CFPUA's interim Chief Executive Officer from July 2013 through December 2013. And whereas in January 2014, the board appointed Mr. Fleckner as Executive Director, and he has served as an Executive Director continuously since that time. And whereas during his tenure as Executive Director, Mr. Fleckner has overseen and supported planned growth in CFPUA's infrastructure, meeting the needs of an expanding customer base. I lost my spot. And commercial activities. And whereas Mr. Fleckner has worked collaboratively and with local and regional governmental units to support and expand the services available to their communities. And whereas Mr. Fleckner has demonstrated his support for the public health and safety of the citizens of the city and county. And whereas Mr. Fleckner has guided CFPUA in its response to emerging unregulated contaminants, resulting in CFPUA staff becoming subject experts regarding such contaminants among the nation's utilities. And whereas Mr. Fleckner worked with the board and staff to develop state-of-the-art interim and long-term treatment processes to provide the cleanest water possible. And whereas Mr. Fleckner, during Mr. Fleckner's service as Executive Director, CFPUA has greatly reduced the number and volume of sanitary sewer overflows. And whereas as Executive Director, Mr. Fleckner has fostered staff's professional development and supported a team of knowledgeable and dedicated employees in all CFPUA departments at all levels. And whereas throughout his service, Mr. Fleckner has demonstrated his commitment to CFPUA's founding principle of providing the highest quality of water and sewer services at a fair cost, and its guiding principles of stewardship, sustainability, and service. And whereas it is the board's intent to recognize Mr. Fleckner for his unflagging support of CFPUA, its employees, and the community it serves, and its high standards of professional ethics and personal integrity. Now, therefore, the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority does hereby formally recognize and thank Mr. Fleckner for his service and dedication as its Executive Director. Thank you, Jim. I think everybody here, as you've set the gold standard and been through some really challenging times. And I think your leadership has set a tone here at the organization for everybody. And your legacy is this staff and the culture that we have here that'll continue on in the future. And thank you from behalf of everybody on the board.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to say?
I did have a couple thoughts, and it's tiring just listening to the recount of all the things that we've worked on over the years. But it can always be a little scary to leave home because so many good things happen at home. The support, the accommodation, the friendships, the caring, and all those things are what make home so special. So when the decision came to leave this wonderful job that I have, it was especially difficult because of all of the people I've had the pleasure to work with over the years. And that's what it's been about, is this organization that we call CFPUA is a home to me and to many others. And it's because of the people. But today I'm feeling very much a sense of gratitude to the board for all of their support and their hard work and all that they've done to advance the organization, and gratitude to the staff who every day come to work and work on behalf of our community to make the organization a better place and our community a better place to live and to work, and for the health of our customers. And a sense of appreciation for the trust that our community has placed in all of us and in our organization to provide the services that we do and to do them as well as we do. And a sense of satisfaction for all that we've accomplished, not just in the last few years, but for the duration of this organization's existence. We have done so much and come so far that there's much to be proud of for all of us. And a sense of optimism about the future of this organization, with the people who are here, the leadership, the management team, all of the staff, the board, and also a sense of optimism for my future, knowing that I have my wife Annette is here, and we're starting a new phase of our lives, and I do it with a great sense of satisfaction and pride, having been involved here. And I can say CFPUA has the most talented and hardworking staff I've ever had the pleasure to work with. And working with all of these people have made me a better person, a better employee, and I know we've accomplished more as a group than we ever could have hoped to accomplish individually. And that's because of all of the people here, the board. 36 people have served on this board since we were founded. And everything we have done has been in the best interest of our customers. That's why we exist. And all the hard decisions that we made were benefiting our customers and our community. And there's a lot that goes into that, and couldn't be more honored to have been part of that process over the years. So I thank you for the opportunity, the kind words, the friendships, and Wes, the kind words that were in the resolution. And the older I get, the more all this means to me. And it's a great way to end a career with all of you, to do it this way. And it's easy to think when you get to this point, well, you know, that the place won't be the same without me. But if I'm honest about it, I won't be the same without this place. And the place being all of you, all of the staff, the board, and all of the friendships that we've built over the years that will live on. And that's why it can be so hard to leave home sometimes. But Annette, after 31 years, you still make my heart skip a beat. And the only regret I have is that we can't go back and do it all over again. She's been with me and all of us along the journey as well. So thank you very much. It's been a true honor, and I look forward to keeping our friendships alive over the coming years. Thank you.
So with that, we'll take a motion to adopt the resolution honoring Jim.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Next, we need to have a motion to go into the public hearing on the FY 2022 budget.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. McLean?
Good morning. So every June, we adopt the budget for the next fiscal year. And as part of this process, the state requires us to have a public hearing on the recommended budget. Included in your packet this morning is the recommended operating budget and capital budget ordinances that includes the budgetary appropriations and estimated revenue sources. You also have the rate and fee schedule that is the support for those estimated revenue sources that are incorporated into the budget ordinance. So the operating budget is $91,968,325, and this is the same information that was presented last month. No changes there, and the capital appropriations that are included in the budget ordinance totaling $27,530,000. That agrees back to what was approved as part of the 10-year CIP back a couple of months ago. So if there aren't any questions, we can move to go into the public hearing portion.
Mr. Chair. John, I know we know this as a board, but just to say it out loud, next year's the budget that's being approved has no rate increase for water and sewer. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Motion to go into public hearing. Public hearing. Is that what we need?
Yeah, I think so.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. I think to move into the public hearing.
No speakers? Okay. Well, if there's no other comments, we can come out of the public, motion to come out of public hearing. Motion to close it.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we take any comments or questions or motion to adopt. Correct.
Motion to adopt the budget is presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Next, we have our consent agenda. There are 5 items before you for consideration. Have any comments, questions on any of the items?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, new business, administrative reports. Linda? Attorney.
I do not have an administrative report, but I do need to go into closed session for a few minutes to discuss the case of our motion to intervene in the lawsuit with the Department of Environmental Quality, Commerce, and Southern Environmental Law Center.
Okay. Do that in the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Next, executive director's report. Jim?
Thank you. The key indicators reports, the environmental reports, the safety report, and the customer service update are in your packet. And if there are any questions, staff or I would be happy to answer.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr.
Jim, on I think it's my page 44, it's the groundwater system flows for Monterey Heights. We're seeing a significant trend upward beyond our permitted level. Could you comment? Is this an issue that we have to deal with the state going beyond our permitted level? We're now both at the average and the peak above. Could you
Obviously, it was
help me out with that? Yeah.
the drought affected that, and Carl can give us a little more information on the capacity and the permitting limits.
Thank you.
That's correct, Mr. Zappel. The dashed line, the horizontal dashed line, that is the permitted capacity. It's for an annual average based on a 12-hour operation. So on a monthly basis, we can go above that as long as for the annual average, we stay below that, and we typically do. However, we have recognized that, capacity is getting a little bit constrained in the Monterey Heights system. We have 2 new wells coming online, hopefully in July. We have also installed with our own staff a booster pump station to transfer water from the Sweeney system into the Monterey Heights system under an emergency if we need to do that. And then we're also planning for an additional well site that is funded in the capital improvement program.
Carl, when we get the 2 new wells online, which is great, you say July, we're talking about next month?
Correct.
Yeah. When that happens, will the state raise the permitted level or raise that permit level?
Yes, we would put in an application with the state to increase the capacity from roughly 1 million gallons per day. And I think we're going up to somewhere around 1.5 million gallons per day with those 2 additional wells.
Thanks.
I agree, yeah.
Any other questions? Moving on to the committee report. Oh,
Mr. Chairman, sorry. I have a quick customer service question. I know that we are ramping up to automatically put a lot of people that are in arrears in automatic payment plans, and I was reviewing that report. I'm wondering, have we been including information about starting disconnects again in September in the bills that are going out now? Letting people kind of get a lead start?
We've already put people on payment plans that started at the beginning of May.
Right.
And as new people get to that $450 threshold, they are then being added. So when we send out the letter advising them that we are putting them on a payment plan, there is information within that letter. There's also an additional letter that went out prior to us even doing the payment plans that went out to anybody that was eligible at that time. When we get closer into the month of August, there is a communications plan that Vaughn and Cammie have worked on to go ahead and start rolling that out, advising people, what the intent is as those payment plans are defaulted or if they become eligible for disconnect. If they become eligible for disconnect before they are disconnected, they also receive an additional letter.
Would it be hard to go ahead and include a paragraph in everyone's bill about the plan, or
we have an opportunity? We can add information within. There is some information that you can, like a text block, that we can include that information on the bill. It would be standard for everybody's bill. As we can separate the class, but we couldn't use. It couldn't be something that was tied to a balance. So it would just be more of a generic. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we don't have to figure this out right this second, but I'm just wondering if it might make sense and help some of those people better organize their summer around knowing that.
Right.
So maybe it's just something to kick around. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving on to the committee reports. Executive committee met June 2nd. The minutes of that meeting are in your packet. Two things there. The first is we had a discussion with Congressman Rouser just about the legislature, the PFAS, potential PFAS bill, and then ways for us to receive money from the state or federal government in regards to some of our ongoing issues we have related to PFAS. And it seemed that he was clearly, trying to understand the situation better on a follow-up meeting that he had with Carl previously. But anyway, I think the big takeaway from that meeting for me was I had asked the question, and several of us did, as far as like what our role is. And, we're not the regulator, but we're the ones that's dealing with it and haven't answered the questions. And I think at least what I heard was that, we need to work with the legislature as much as we can and get and kind of advocate for ourselves as much as we can, so that we're included in some of these discussions, which clearly it feels like we're not currently, especially in some of these discussions. Feel like we're out of the room to an extent. So So anyway, I think we've all talked about this and talked about how to be more proactive, at least in getting in the room with some of these discussions, which we have to an extent. But I think that's just going to be a continuous effort on our part to make sure that we are having our voice heard and the situation that we are in, because we're still unable to answer the really tough questions. And we expressed to him that our position is that we don't know, but we're doing everything that we can. And I think we're still making the right decisions on that. Even though we don't have the answers, we don't know what the number is, but we're doing the best thing we can to protect until we know what that is. So anyway, just wanted to highlight that. The second item is, did you hand out the contract? Okay. Everybody has a copy of the contract for the new Mr. Waldrop for the employment contract as the next executive director. We can take any comments or questions on that, or I need a motion to approve that contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Those are comments. We'll move on to finance. Ms. Adams.
Okay, the notes from the June 2nd Finance Committee are in your packet, and we have a May financials update to present.
Okay, so we're nearing the home stretch on FY21, and as a presentation pulls up, we'll go to the first slide in the presentation, where you can see that, let's see, there it goes, that our total unrestricted fund balance, that number that we monitor closely, and the current target is $50 million. It's $63.5 million, so in good shape there. This is the time of year when we can really get some insight on whether we'll have a surplus or deficit in the operating fund for the year. This is 10 months through the fiscal year, so through April. And you can see that we have about $1 million surplus, revenues exceeding expenditures. There will be some additional expenditures that happen in May and June, including a large debt service payment in June. And you'll see this number, this capital transfers number, it's currently budgeted to be $18 million, and fully anticipate us to spend that on our capital investments through the remainder of the year. Again, any surplus or deficit is really a function of how revenues perform in comparison to the budget. And we have this look here. Now, this is as of May, so this includes one more month from the prior screen. So 11 out of 12 months through the year, so 91.66% through the year. And you can see that our revenues compared to our budget is right there. So I fully anticipate either a slight surplus or a slight deficit. We're going to be right there, and that's kind of in line. We've really made some efforts this past fiscal year to get out that crystal ball and to budget as tight as we can. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chair, just a quick comment. John, I know we still have another month to go, but you've really done a terrific job tightening it up over the last 2 or 3 years at least, and making that happen. This is a real win and a real success story for yourself and the entire organization. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, Sustainability Committee, Dr. Cannon.
Yes, this morning we have a resolution to bring before the board. As you all know, we've been working on the issue of affordability. We have sort of a short-term game and a long-term game. And Ms. Halleck is going to present information about next steps we would like to take. And the minutes are obviously in your packet for approval. Lindsay.
So as Lindsay's making her way to the lectern, as Ms. Cannon mentioned, we've been having discussions about affordability and customer assistance programs. and looking at how funding for those for the customer assistance programs could exist. And the resolution shows support for legislative changes that would be needed to give us more flexibility to have some funding for customer assistance programs. And it would require work with the General Assembly, so we believe the resolution shows, if it's passed, that the organization supports us and would give more credibility to those discussions with the legislature. With that, Ms. Halleck has some additional information on it, and the resolution is in your packets.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning. I wanted to just kind of a quick background on this resolution, which is that, as Jessica mentioned, the Sustainability Committee has been looking at the issue of affordability, and that's kind of from like the rate structure changes all the way to customer assistance programs. And really those conversations revolved around sort of the central question, which is, who struggles to pay water and sewer bills and why, and how many of those accounts are there? So we've been looking into that, and kind of for the first time, we used a mix of census data, billing data, and GIS to sort of quantify and clarify that question. And really what that work showed us is that we have about 1,700 accounts that no matter what kind of structure different or changes we make, they're always probably going to struggle to pay their bill, and that's really due to income limitations. And when you look at that amount, it's sort of hovering around $400,000. So ideally, that's what a customer assistance program would be there to address. We've done some fundraising. Waterway NC, which is the nonprofit that was started to fundraise for CFPUA Assist, has raised about $15,000. In the past, we've received money from the city and the county, combined about $10,000. So there's obviously a gap there that we have not been able to fill. And really the goal of this resolution would be to say, okay, long-term, is there a way that we can get changes done at the state level, which would be required for us to fund some of this program? And in the meantime, can we, go to the city, the county, the hospital endowment fund and see if they would help us out until we get those changes done? And so that's what this resolution is really meant to provide guidance on. And so I'll take any questions or, address any concerns you might have.
We talked previously, I think at our last board meeting, about sort of short-term, medium-term, long-term. And we know that for the customers, it's for simple algebraic reasons, they can't always afford our water. We know that oftentimes we spend a lot of staff time and hire outside businesses to help us try to run down that money, and we end up inevitably writing off a certain significant amount. So bear in mind that this is, in some respects, this is protection for our paying ratepayers. So in terms of short term, do we have commitments from the county and the city to help with our immediate needs?
Yeah, so like I said, we have in the past gotten about $6,000 from the county. We've gotten $4,000 from the city from their annual budgets for the past 2 years towards CFPUA Assist. And then also, there's been sort of a heavy stream of federal funding that's come down to the county and the city that are really dedicated to pandemic relief. And so most of that more recently came from the American Rescue Plan Act. The county has agreed to give $500,000 of their ARP funding towards water and sewer bills specifically. And then we did ask the city, and they haven't, they've declined to participate in that so far. But the $500,000 combined with anything we get from the low income program that was approved should kind of handle both of those groups of customers, ones who are low income and then customers who might not qualify as low income, but were affected by the pandemic and still need help. So if we look at those two funding, I'm hoping that'll kind of handle any short-term issues we have while we work on more permanent solutions for the program.
Excellent. Any other questions?
I have a question that really, it's a little off the side of this, but in years gone by, we've always taken great pride at CFPUA that our rates were pretty middling throughout the state. Is that still the case? I mean, we weren't the highest, we weren't the lowest, but we were somewhere, we fall into the middle.
Yeah, so, and John can touch on this more. We do, of course, follow the rate affordability dashboard that the Environmental Finance Center produces, comparing ourselves to other utilities around the state. I think, what our work did was saying, okay, when you compare sort of the average use compared to like the median household income, then, you can kind of produce those percentages of how many people would be able to afford that. But what we were looking at is, okay, there's always going to be people, of course, by nature below the median household income. And so what are those people dealing with? How many disconnects are we doing for those people? Are there, what we found is there are often repeat disconnects. So, even if our rates are affordable for the majority of our customers, there's always going to be that population.
Well,
that
I wasn't
struggles.
insinuating that we weren't, ma'am. That
Yeah.
wasn't the reason for my question. I was just wondering where our rates fall as it regards the rest of the state and other utilities.
Yeah, John, do you want to, I don't know if you have the most recent information.
Sure. So each year we look at our average residential consumer, what they're consuming on a monthly basis, and we multiply that by our rates to calculate that average monthly bill combined for water and sewer. We then benchmark that against some peer utilities, including Onwassa and Brunswick County. We also look at peer groups. So we look at all North Carolina utilities. We look at just the large North Carolina utilities. We look at North Carolina utilities that have similar income levels, that we do. And yes, we are actually exactly equal to on a monthly basis. We're equal to the average for the large North Carolina utilities, and we are below the level for all of those other peer groups and those single peer utilities. So yeah, we are right there. Feel good about our rates on an average basis.
Well, we used to get a little, not a graph, but we used to get a little readout, because no matter where you went, say your water rates, you're too damn high. And so as a result of that, they started providing us with where we stood. And then I'm going back a number of years, we were usually right in the middle, which went against their arguments that we were the highest people in the state. The other comment I make is, when this authority was born, the city and the county were very deliberate in the way that they structured it. And I don't know if that was as a result of the statute that we are operating under, or we folded our criteria into that statute, but it strictly forbade what we're talking about doing. And my question now is, where are we in the General Assembly, and what is their appetite for granting us this change to the way we operate?
Right, that's a good question. And really, that's the purpose of this resolution, is to say, okay, as an organization, do we want to move forward in going into the General Assembly and starting to sort of see, navigate the waters and see who might be interested in this? Are there other utilities or other, authorities who fall under the same statute as we do? Are they also interested in this? And, have they been talking to their representatives? So really, we wanted to have this resolution from the board first to make sure that this is something that the board is interested in pursuing. And then if you guys do approve it, that would be something we'd start doing, is kind of getting a plan together and reaching out to our representative and then other authorities across the state as well.
Okay, so at this point, we're not exactly sure what other utilities are having the same discussion that we're having.
Well, can I interject for just a second? So municipalities and non-water authority type utilities in North Carolina can offer assistance funds.
City of Wilmington always did, Jessica.
Yeah.
We always
So
did.
my lobbying pitch is this: we're trying to figure out a way where super poor little kids don't wake up in the morning with no water, right? That's the common
Jessica,
goal.
I get all that.
I want to make sure though. So that's the goal.
I'm not against
And
what we're talking about.
I
was
hear you,
just
I hear
asking
you.
some black and white questions.
Absolutely. So what we're asking today is it the will of the board that the General Assembly revisit this issue for water authorities?
I get that. I was merely asking, are there other utilities that we're aware of that are facing the same things we are? That's all.
Yeah, and as a kind of indicator, the representative from Chapel Hill this year did put in a bill that asked the legislature to allow water and sewer authorities specifically to sort of, the word forgive is kind of strong, but to kind of go back and help customers who are in debt. And so that was introduced, which makes me believe that there are water and sewer authorities that are asking these questions and wanting to pursue this. So that's kind of the one example that that I've seen recently. We do work a lot with the Environmental Finance Center. They're sort of working on this issue a lot right now. And they have told me sort of in personal conversations that other utilities are also trying to figure out how they can, address this growing issue of affordability, which is not just a CFPUA issue, it's a water sector issue nationally. So people are trying to ask those questions. So I do think that there are other utilities that would be interested in having the conversation.
Good.
Charlie, I think the graph you're referring to was in an early budget presentation, right? And so we can resend that graph out, but that was prepared recently.
What was that?
The graph that has the
okay.
rates.
Thank you.
We can resend it back out, but that was in an early budget.
It's just nice something to have in your pocket when you run into
We'll resend it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Lindsay, I just, before you leave the podium, I wanted to thank you specifically and other staff that has worked on defining something as basic and as simple as that 1,700 number, which has been elusive, yet is the key to the conversation, just how many people we are. I know it was very effective over at the county and in making the decision to commit those ARP funds, the $500,000. It avoids or stops the question, which is, are we throwing money at a never-ending problem? And by simply being able to define that and to put a real number behind that, and I know how much work you put into it, it was not an easy number to come out. And and having the background to show that it's not a made-up number or something, it's a solid number. That was huge, and thank you for doing that. It's also what is allowing the rest of this conversation to move forward. So nice work.
Thank you.
And thank you, Rob, for helping with the communications at the county level. We appreciate that.
And Commissioner Barfield.
As well. So I would move the resolution.
All in favor? Oh, yes, Mr.
Larry, you need your mic, yeah.
Yes, I received an email earlier this week, I guess, that there may be federal funds also available and for funding help to ratepayers. And I see that we're requesting additional funding from City of Wilmington, New Hanover County, and New Hanover County Endowment. Should we put in there that we would also pursue state and federal sources?
Mr. Chair, can I respond?
Paragraph 2 at the bottom of the first page.
Larry, the ARP money is federal money that's coming down. It flows through the state and to our county as well. So maybe it's inferred, but I think what you're suggesting is, highlighting it even more if there is continued, and there frankly probably will be more, CARES Act type money or ARP money going forward. So is that your line of thinking, is just to highlight that, because we are right now receiving federal money?
Well, I'm not sure how that source, that seemed to be a separate source of funding. I just didn't want us to pass a resolution and leave out possible sources of funding.
Are you making that a motion to amend?
Yes, I'll make it a motion to amend paragraph 2 to add state and federal sources of funding.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We need to adopt the motion now as amended.
Oh, okay, all right. So I'll take a motion to adopt the amended resolution as proposed.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, that concludes our regular items. Any old business or closing comments? I have a couple closing comments, just highlights. A few meetings ago, we we added a position in development services for a project engineer that went out. And I think, to me, I just want to highlight this because I think it kind of highlights, how well we do as training and kind of promoting staff to be ready for the next level. So that position, that project engineer position was taken by Kyle Lewis, who Kyle Lewis had been in the organization since 2012 as a construction inspector, and was really kind of go-getter, had a good attitude, but that was an internal hire in a good position. He's kind of hit the ground running in that position. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that because I think that's essentially what we're trying to do is have everybody trained and ready to take on that next position. That was kind of a theme over the last month. I've been fortunate enough to spend more time with some of the staff than I ever have through this process. And I mean, throughout, it's just amazing the commitment, dedication, hard work, and resiliency that they have in pushing all these items that we face and talk about. They push it into the future. And I think just wanted to give kudos to them again for that. It's just really impressive at a time when it's hard to get people to work more or less dedicate to that level their job, and they do. And I think that's a huge legacy that Jim is leaving us with is, people don't work that hard. They have a bad boss. So I think it's a really good culture we have here. We're really poised to tackle all these things that we're facing in the future. And lastly, a part of that was, I just want to thank Lori. She's put a lot into this hiring process, done an extremely good job. And her relationship, which is obvious that she has in her position in HR, and the relationships she has with all these employees is really remarkable to see. And I think that goes a long way in keeping everybody happy and productive, and she has a good pulse on that, I feel. So I thank you, Lori, for everything you've done. So, with that,
Mr. Chair.
Yep, Mr. Zappel.
Along with transitioning Mr. Fleckner into out of the organization, I believe this is your last meeting as our chairman. Am I correct?
No. Not unless there's something I don't know.
Oh, okay. I'm just a little ahead of myself. That's all. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, we're delighted you're here. Just wanted to make that comment. And thank you for your leadership. Sure. No. Apologize. Yeah.
Any other closing comments? Thank you all. We'll take a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
For those that are in the room, this is Jonathan Barfield. I'll be having some eye surgery in a little while. So that's why I'm not with you today.
Good luck.
Keep me in your prayers.
Good luck.
You bet.
We will.